in the laboratory when you're geared up to do this particular type of thing. It takes controlled oxygen cubic acid. It takes controlled cooling rates in closed containers. You could make something hand size, but we don't make them that large. We have problems with containers. We make them smaller. So we're making them on the order of just a few, 5 millimeters, 6 millimeters across. We're not making a hand size. But the fact is we can duplicate everything, and it's been done for many, many years.
I want to go back to the statement, and then I'll pick up with what you just said. On the Kilauea lava lake, because of what Brent Dalrymple said at the Arkansas Creation Trial, I got samples of the Kilauea lava samples. In fact, they're at home, and I was going to bring them with me tonight. I contest your view, and I have the samples to prove it. That
I didn't refer to Kilauea. I noticed I said Hawaii. There are many, many flows on Hawaii. You're talking about a very recent, very quickly cooled. When you have lava come out and cool more slowly, if it remains in a lava lake and it cools as a crust in there, then it cools much faster. Much slower, and it's continually heated up, and it's near a glass state most of the time. So it's very fine grain size.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you this question, following now on the comments that you just made in the
I'm sorry, but I feel that I'll be willing to show you the literature. I'll be willing to talk to you about demonstrations, whatever you want. But I'm not about to come up and sit here and have you change things around about the salts and granites. It's well established in literature. I can give you that.
I'm happy that this has occurred tonight because it's not the first time that I've heard such a claim. In fact, the letter I just got through reading to you a few minutes ago, and I'll bring his name out now. A geologist up in Canada wrote me a letter. In fact, he's written me several letters. And in these letters, he's pointed out supposedly some things that relate to things that I've been publishing on and so forth. And in the context of this, one of the letters he wrote to me, this is now back in February, he said, a granite sample has indeed been synthesized in a laboratory. Now, from what the gentleman just said, of course, you've got to have high pressures, you've got to have high temperatures, and you've got to have slow cooling. Oh, pardon me, you didn't say high pressures. I should say that the evolutionary view of the formation of granite is such that granite supposedly form at great depths under high pressures. So I'll add this. This is a part of the conventional view. He goes on to say, there is a first-year geology course offered here over the television in the form of a 22-hour series called Understanding the Earth. In the program on igneous rocks, they showed a film that was taken back in the early 60s where a granite sample was crushed to a fine powder, poured into a small copper pot, water added, placed in an apparatus, and subjected to high temperatures. The result was a crystallized specimen about the size of your thumb. He said he had this on the tape. In other words, a granite sample has been synthesized in the laboratory. Well, I was really interested. Since I had issued this test, it was subjected to severe scrutiny at the Arkansas trial in 1981. And I will stop just for a moment to say that in 1985, the magazine Science published a report indicating there again was no science in creation science. And I attempted at that particular time to have a rebuttal published. And it was unsuccessful because the magazine indicated that they would not handle anything relating to creation science. But this last summer, as I've indicated to you, again, I issued the challenge. It's been in the EOS. But anyway, I was really interested. Here's someone who's saying that, it's all on TV. So I got a copy of this TV film, Understanding the Earth, and the particular series relating to the synthesis of a granite. And sure enough, when the material came back to me, I actually got the outline for the course. I noticed, though, that in looking at the TV video and looking at the outline of the course, it didn't really say that a granite per se had been synthesized. It said, this is suggestive of how granite's supposedly synthesized. Anyway, what was shown on the tape was a powdered granite, and the powdered granite was crushed and put into a furnace, put into, I should say, a gold or a platinum envelope, and it was taken up to 700 or 800 degrees centigrade, and then it was sufficient water and so forth, it was allowed to cool over a several-month period of time. Well, I wanted to actually find the samples that were in that experiment. It wasn't good enough for me just to say, well, it looks like a granite. I didn't know. Maybe it was supposedly a granite. So I called the gentleman who had done the series now in the mid-1970s. And I asked him to begin to look very particularly at that segment. And I said, I want to know, first of all, did you do the experiment? He said, no, we didn't do the experiment. We took it from an old Encyclopedia Britannica film. And so I said, well, can you tell me more about it? He said, I'll go back and look. And he went back and looked, but he couldn't find any more additional information about it. He only had one name, and through that one name, I began to call around the country, various geologists, and I finally was led to someone else, and they led me to someone else, and they led me to someone else. And I finally found the gentleman who had actually done the experiment of supposed granite synthesis. And indeed, he admitted that this is a part of, of an ongoing research program, and they were carrying on at that particular time. Well, I said, I'm very much interested in getting information on the samples that you were trying to synthesize at that particular time, the granite ones especially. And he said, well, that was some 20 or more years ago. And so I continued to check. I got back with him, and he has since retired. He said that he thought he perhaps had a piece from one of the experiments, but he was way out west and he wasn't coming back east until this last week, April 9, in fact. And so I called all over the place trying to get other samples of people who had done these kinds of experiments and supposedly was going to show me this information on granite synthesis. Well, I called him Friday afternoon, just last week. He was back at his home, and I said, I'm still looking for this sample that you had indicated was possibly still in existence. And indeed, he had returned home, and he had been looking for it for 4 days and was unable to find it. Well, I encouraged him to keep on looking and told him I would get back in touch with him. I guess he felt, in fact, he told me he thought, it had been left at some university someplace and he didn't have it. Saturday night, though, I received a telephone call. He had found this specimen that was a part of this granite synthesis experiment of 20 years ago. It was in another state, and all the stores, of course, are closed as far as delivery is concerned, Federal Express. But I paid to have it shipped Delta Dash from his city to mine. If you turn on the 35mm projector again, you'll see a picture of it. There it is. There's a sample that was a part of a granite synthesis experiment over 20 years ago. 700 or 800 degrees centigrade, melted, cooled down now. And if I understood what you said a few minutes ago, you could do it in a week. Well, what we're talking about is something here, and that glass slide right below the pane is a granite sample that was ground up, crushed, melted, and cooled, not over a period of a week, which you said you were able to do and come up with a granite. That was cooled down over a period of 2 months. And it bears a remarkable resemblance to another piece of rock which is adjacent to it. If you go back to the previous slide, I'll talk about the other rock which is adjacent to it. Okay? Claim has been made tonight that granite can be synthesized like the ones I have up here. But as I was in the last stages of writing my book, and I realized that such events might take place, such as what has happened tonight, I'm very, very happy that it has happened.